So one thing about judgmental people is that they have very little depth of understanding for themselves, others, and the world. And so I was at a McDonald's the other day, and a lady came storming in about her latte that she was waiting for in the parking lot. And the worker de-escalated fast, saying the latte machine needed more milk. And with this example, we can see how this lady was super angry, judgmental about the latte not being done, simply because she didn't put any thought into understanding why the latte might not be done. And even deeper, why the people don't have her latte out to her faster. Because if you've ever worked in fast food or restaurants, you know that it doesn't really attract the most hardworking people all the time. So the key to being non-judgmental is to simply understand yourself. And when you access true understanding of yourself, it makes it very easy to accept yourself. Therefore, when you accept and understand yourself, it becomes very easy to accept and understand others. Because one thing that you learn through self-acceptance is that when you grow out of any sort of pattern, you were just growing out of a pattern. It's not something shameful. You know, if you used to be judgmental and you grew out of it, you accepted that you were judgmental, you grew out of it, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. Therefore, when you see someone who is judgmental, you understand that they can grow out of it. You've accepted it in yourself, and you're just like, oh, that person is judgmental. And then you understand that some people just grow at a slower pace. Some people grow passively through life. They don't, strive to grow and improve themselves, and that's okay. It's still a way to learn. So you can be non-judgmental of them. And so, going back to growth, in order to grow out of a pattern, you have to accept that in yourself. And you have to accept it in the sense that you're not shaming, blaming, judging yourself for having that pattern. Because you understand that the reason you have that pattern is to grow out of it. So, if you want to be non-judgmental, you need to understand the self. And I want to go into a little bit about childhood trauma and the healing journey and how this relates to non-judgmentalness, because it's really important. Because I think that a lot of people I've spoken to, they tend to see themselves through the lens of shame or blame or negativity. But through my healing journey and my inner work, the more I look deeper into myself, the more I see how clearly I am that I'm a beautiful person with good intentions and nothing really to be ashamed about. And so when you really look deeply into yourself, you see that even if you seem like a bad person, even if you've acted like a bad person, underneath it all, you are pure. And from a spiritual perspective, that is the truth of who you are. Purity, love, innocence. We all started out that way. And the reason why we shift into not seeing ourselves as purity, love, and innocence starts in childhood. And has everything to do with our parents. Because a lot of us were shamed or made to feel wrong for expressing joy, excitement, for being innocent in a world of cruelty. And so in childhood, we learned that our love, purity, and innocence was wrong. But then when we look back into our childhood from our adult eyes, we realize that we were always pure. We were always love. We were always joy. And really judgmental or nasty people still carry that belief in themselves that when they express love to others, when they express kindness to others, when they express joy, that was wrong. And they carry that limiting belief. And then they might judge you for expressing joy, excitement, whatever. But yeah, so I used to be I don't know if I was super judgmental, maybe a little bit. But that leads me into the next point, because there's a difference between being judgmental and being like not okay with mistreatment. So like when I see someone that's like doing something that harms others, or like acting or behaving in a way that's like very harmful, I get this feeling of like and that's not me being judgmental. It's just me disagreeing with their behavior. And it's also like my internal boundary system being like, hey, this isn't okay with me, and like this behavior is not okay with me, so I'm gonna stay away from that person. So you don't have to beat yourself up about disagreeing with people's behaviors. What I'm trying to say here is like, it's not judgmental to have a problem with people who mistreat others or people who are behaving in ways that are very harmful. And even emotionally, because in my opinion, emotional harm can be a lot more damaging than physical harm. And a lot of people in today's society get away with emotional harm without like social repercussions. And I think that's a problem. And so, yeah. So if you find yourself wanting to be less judgmental of others, see how deeply you can understand and accept yourself. So I'm gonna give you a few tips actually on how to understand and accept yourself. And if you're an empathic person, you're probably really good at giving other people the benefit of the doubt. So you wanna extend that benefit of the doubt to you. And really like nasty, judgmental people who are like harmful, they often don't give themselves any benefit of the doubt. They have a really distorted and negative relationship with themselves. And so they're always kind of seeing themselves through this like negative, distorted lens. Even if some of that is true, some of it is illusion. And they perpetuate their own negativity by never giving themselves any benefit of the doubt. So, see how deeply you can understand yourself. Reactive abuse is another thing that can cause a negative relationship with the self that is false. So if you don't know what a reactive abuse is, it's basically when a narcissistic or abusive person provokes you into reacting to gaslight you into thinking that you are the aggressor. I think in psychology it's called DARVO. Reverse victim. Is it DARVO? I don't know. Reverse victim and offender. So a lot of people who react to abuse, a lot of times they have this like low self-esteem and like negative self-concept. But if you want to fix that, you have to see the truth of the abusive person's behavior, that they are provoking you and that you are reacting. And you can give yourself the benefit of the doubt and the grace to know that as someone who's going through abuse, harm, and a victim of abuse, that it makes sense for you to react sometimes. It makes sense for you to make mistakes. And it's okay that you make mistakes and that you react. And so yeah, I hope this video was informative and helpful for you. My name is Abigail Ellington. I help people understand themselves, others. At 12, I went through a 9-year dark night of the soul where I experienced extreme trauma and trials and initiations through self-reliance and isolation. So now I want to share what I know with the world, how you can live like me. I'm also super deep into spirituality, so that's my thing here on this channel as well. So, I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.